did this part.
Yeah, we did that. Now
I
listen.
have like nothing
Okay.
laying in front of me.
Well,
you have
so-
all the stuff.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, here you can have that. But that's for your laptop. So don't forget that. But this is what So listen, hair and makeup didn't approve of that. So, and of course, I probably didn't approve of the wardrobe.
Hey, I have that shirt
do
too.
you?
Yeah, somewhere.
It was a good year.
It was.
And I was 4.
I was not 4. I was something else.
So I guess I was 3 when they were running the campaign.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
so the only reason that I have this stuff is there was no place to really set this, which really, because we just sat in chairs last time. We're trying something new. All right.
Right.
Now, and I used my phone last time, and it is a flowery case, but I would like to point out that it is tropical flowers. Yeah, I know. You're very, yeah.
Android
But-
user.
Yeah, this is the Jimmy Buffett. This is a tropical flower vibe. So anytime I need a little quick vacation, I can just, there, I'm on vacation. Oh. Not once have I done that since I've owned
Do
the
you
phone.
really
but
need vacation that badly?
Only when I'm filming the podcast.
Have
So
we
I
determined
have-
that we're calling it a podcast?
Yeah, because I got nothing else.
Okay.
But then I had the iPad for the notes
Right.
because we can't use the phone.
Right.
And I'm said this numerous times over. I'm 44. Okay.
You say that like it's like you're the youngest person in this room.
Yes. But
Do you see the gray?
well,
Everybody thinks I'm so young.
it's because you're so spry and happy.
I am not spry. My back is out. And my knees popping and my hips hurt.
It's when you pop, drop, and lock it, and you're like,
I mean,
I've
you should
been
see
doing
me
that for
walk.
years.
You should see me walk from this building,
Right?
which we're in my workshop,
Yes,
right?
new recording space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the house. What is that? Like 100 feet?
Oh, well, a little more. Yeah, it's more than that.
I'm like,
But
the hips are popping. I'm like, oh. Yeah, I know.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
My wife tells me I need to work out more.
You have a gym.
That's her answer to everything.
Well, it is.
You're hungry? Work out more.
Really?
I mean, you're worried? Work out more. Well, you need more money? Work out more. I don't know.
I clearly have not applied that as a solution to anything. Okay. So,
Well, her patients tell her that her philosophy of good diet and working out really helped them feel better. So,
I am one of her patients, Jimmy.
yeah, you keep saying that.
I've
And she's told you the same thing,
yeah,
hasn't
and
she?
we're working.
Hasn't she?
Yes,
She
but
has,
we're working
hasn't
on
she?
it. We're
Yeah.
working on it. Baby steps.
Ah, it's a great movie.
All right. So,
Probably most of the people watching this, if they're younger than us, don't know what movie we're talking about when we say Baby Steps. Do you remember what movie I'm talking about? Yes. See, I just totally put him on the spot. Dude, Bill Murray? Richard Dreyfuss? What About Bob?
oh yes, yeah. I haven't. Especially
Is
with a
this
wife
hand
who's-
shucked corn?
right? With a wife being in the psychology field, counseling field.
It's so hard not to say industry, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to be careful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you would think I'd seen that movie more,
Yeah.
but alas, I have not. So, all right.
Okay.
So, welcome back to episode 5, Regular Dad Podcast. So what?
Are you comfortable?
Other than our proximity, yeah, I'm fine. Because I liked the proximity last time, but I like the way it looks this time with the background and everything.
I mean,
so that's
I
good.
keep looking at it because it looks so good. I think.
The camera.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I can calm down then.
Okay.
All right. So we are today and the next episode, we're going to be talking about my journey through depression. Now, if anyone has listened to the podcast that I do with Bill Leckie on the Divergent Sense, I originally did that. It was what we called my depression journey. And the reason is because once I got in, I was going to counseling and different things. And once I realized, oh, hey, I'm depressed, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. I kind of wanted to share, with
Right.
people. So I kind of shared in real time. And I would record once a month, but I would just kind of, this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm going through now. And we were just kind of plodding along. So, so it was much more methodical. I didn't ever want to bring the perspective of this is how I conquered everything, because I didn't know where things were going. And you talk about some ups and downs. I had recording dates that were scheduled that we canceled because I just couldn't, at the time, and just a lot of stuff going on. But I did want to offer that for people because, again, this is regular dad stuff, regular life stuff, and so many people deal with this. They don't even know they're dealing with it. It's just what and that was me. And I had a wife, PhD counselor, and she's sitting there telling me, "You're depressed. You're depressed. You're depressed." Well, of course you think I'm depressed because I'm just not as happy as you, but that's how I am.
Well, and I think the tendency with medical professionals, even like my wife, is to assume that they just see the world through that lens. And so whenever they say, "Oh, you're depressed," or whatever, or "You need to exercise more," yeah, well, you just see the world through that lens.
Absolutely.
That's not based on anything that's true.
Yeah. There's no knowledge or study that you've engaged
No,
in
you haven't
that
done
qualifies
it.
you.
I mean,
I live inside of my head.
That's such a regular dad thing to say too. Yeah. Just
So,
like write off the professional that you're living with for 17 years. I mean, whatever, how many, you guys have been married 14, right?
No, we are fixing to clock 18.
18. So you've been married long. Okay.
Yeah. So,
For some reason I had, okay. Okay.
So the first thing that I had to do for depression, and this is the first thing that I learned, that depression is not what I thought it was. Shocking. I know, because I'd had no training, no education.
You had no training. Yeah.
No. And I only had my wife saying, in my head, now she was saying, "Hey, I think you're dealing with some depression." And she was very loving about it. She said, "This is what I'm seeing." And she would explain it. And I heard, "You're in the past, you're in the past, you're in the past." And this is what's going on in my head.
Right.
That's not what she was doing.
Right.
Okay. Just for the record. But, when you're depressed, you also hear stuff a little funky.
Right.
You're hyper, you're sensitive and don't realize it. But depression is not
like you have a frequency peak in a room that you're trying to mix in.
Yes.
This nerd
resonant
moment.
frequencies.
Yes,
we call
this
those.
nerd moment has been sponsored by Church AV Servitude.
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 I like it.
Okay. Anyways,
So depression is not, I lay in my bed all day. It can be. Depression is not suicidal thoughts and ideations. It can be. And if you're at that point, there is obviously depression going along with that. But you can be depressed.
Sorry,
depressed.
I'm not trying to interrupt you here. This is a very important.
This is the world we live in.
Sorry.
With Jimmy.
Okay.
All right.
The OCD took over a little bit there.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. And, I don't have anything else over there for you to fidget with. We'll come up with something for you next time.
So depression.
Yeah, depression. Yeah. I was fixing to talk about how I've overcome depression, but after this episode, we might be talking about the struggle is real.
Yeah.
Okay. But so depression is not, it doesn't start at what a lot of people think it is, the super heavy, super intense, everything's like Eeyore, so that's not it. My baseline for what was normal was a depressed state, and I didn't get it. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Now, I did plenty of activities that made me happy. I like to do things with my family. I served at church. I was around church people. I like to grill. I like to go to the lake. I like to do these things.
Yeah.
Okay? Those would move me past my baseline. So I was happy.
Right.
The problem is where the baseline is. Okay? Having shifted that baseline, I now, it's great perspective.
Yeah.
Because I can look back at where things were. Now, Dina was on me to go to counseling for, years. I would have to sit and think, but years. Mm-hmm. After Dad died, which will be a whole other episode, I don't know when, but we'll talk about some of the grief process and losing someone that's close. But he died 2020, April 15th, 2020. Mm-hmm. So after that, what was a little bit of emotional marginal space that I had to move around in and process things in my head, it just closed up. was a total logjam. I didn't really get happy as much, if at all, anymore. I was just kind of on stun. But because it's compressing everything, I also didn't really get sad. You know, I didn't have the lows because baseline.
So I mean, you could have just at that point felt like, oh, I'm in pretty good shape because I think we think about depression as
because we didn't there wasn't a lot of flex,
right,
and there are normal emotional functioning. You are very happy, you have a great time, you're on vacation, you know, you get something, you get big highs, right? And then something happens. And you have the emotional lows. They can't see that because it's below the table, but you get the idea. Yeah. All right. Now again, my baseline, my midpoint, if you will, already being lower than what it should be, a normal, healthy, functioning, emotional, mental functioning person. It was still pretty much at the center. That's why I didn't feel like I had shifted. Mm-hmm. But the lows didn't go anywhere, and the highs didn't go anywhere. So we just kind of collapsed in on the middle. Yeah. Right? When I started going to see my first counselor, she was amazing, and was just a good friend. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really think a lot was happening, except for there was a lot happening, because just kind of talking about that started to give me a little space, and I could think about it, and it would, we're not flexing yet, but we're just kind of breathing a little. Okay. Right. All right, so this, we're starting. My first noticeable change, while we were in the middle of building a house, Dina and I, and you remember the particulars of this story because I put it in the notes and didn't bother to recollect it fully, but essentially, we needed to meet with a trim carpenter about some details for how we wanted to finish out a couple of things. They were fixing to do some closet stuff, and we're just we need to line this out. Okay. And so she asked me, does this need to happen now? And I was like, well, sooner rather than later. Yeah. All right. That's fine. So, but she needed a chance to kind of think through some stuff. It didn't really need to happen now, right? But she went to make it happen now because I didn't communicate fully the urgency. Mm-hmm. But, and again, if you've ever built a house or been involved in that, building a house and I, as a builder, it's stressful on the builder, but when you're building for yourself, dear God, it is. Yeah. It's a lot. There's
no part of the process that you're not involved with.
Right. Yeah. And so
instead of just being like, you're the builder and then the person. Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's some, it's the hot seat every which way, but my brain is cooked, and it's just, so I'm not really thinking about, she doesn't understand this part, she doesn't know this, because she hasn't walked through it before. Right. Yeah, I've been there plenty. But she said, well, I'll go take care of it. And so I go over there too. All right. We're supposed to leave and go out of town. My son was playing he did a summer extracurricular band thing. He's a phenomenal trumpet player. And so he was doing this in the next town over. And we had to be over there at whatever time it was. So I go over there with Dina. We go through the particulars. And now I leave and say, I'm going to go get ready. Yeah. And about 30 minutes later, Dina comes in. And she's moving quick. And I'm thinking, she seems upset. Uh-oh. Well, and we had not had any terse words or anything. Right. We had not, so there had been no encounters like that or exchanges like that. And it wasn't like, you have to go now. And I don't have time. There was none of that. She just went and did. So I didn't intentionally lead her down the wrong path. There was unintentionally limited information on her part and unintentional overreaction, I guess, on her part. She's like, well, this needs to be done. It need to be done now. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we get it done. We're talking about in the car, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And so we debrief that. And I'm like, I'm very sorry I didn't communicate that. Yeah. And what would normally happen when she would tell me, you upset me this way, this is what happened, and it would have been better if you would have communicated this way. Very honest, open, and transparent communication. She would offer that. I would shame spiral. I'm like, I'm the worst. I can't believe I didn't tell you. I suck. you know.
Yeah.
And this is just that was the instant,
That was like the
yeah.
the normal.
Yeah, you find the sword, you fall on the sword, you pick yourself up, you fall on it again.
Yeah.
To demonstrate
See how
to
important
her
it is to me.
Yes,
Yeah.
look. So this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going through. And look at what I'm doing for you. I've impaled myself a dozen times on my own sword, you know.
Right.
The problem is that didn't leave room for her to fully expand or for us to clean up and prevent that sort of thing from happening again. So I didn't know that at the time. I understand that much better now, but she kind of stopped in the middle of it and she said, this feels different. And I was like, yeah, I know. And we realized, okay, hey, this was the first change. I didn't go into a shame spiral.
Right.
That doesn't seem like it was a big deal. It was like, okay, so you responded to an issue more normally. That was a huge deal.
Yeah,
because
like
I could not remember.
You're not in the rut of whatever
Exactly.
it is the dynamic is used to in your guys' relationship.
yes.
I imagine it was shocking for her.
It was shocking for her, incredibly shocking for me because I'm like, something different just happened.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was the first noticeable change. The other next noticeable change, I noticed that I started sleeping better. Okay. Now, typically, all right, I'm going to go to sleep. I'd wake up. But when that everything was kind of compressed, I'd wake up during the middle of the night, and kind of think about stuff. Not a lot of high anxiety.
You just weren't
Not
sleeping.
overly anxious feelings, but as
Yeah.
it turns out, yes, that's exactly what anxiety is too, which is a whole other episode that we'll probably get to. But I started sleeping better. Now these aren't fixes; they're improvements.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot going on. The next thing that I was able to do is realize, like from that conversation that Dean and I had in the takeaway, I realized, you know what? I see this is a trigger scenario for me. And everyone be cool. I'm not saying I was triggered in that snowflake sense of the word that some people use. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about what that word actually was intended to be used for. Okay. So it's being triggered by something. It does not carry a negative connotation with it
Right.
all the time. And this is one of those times. All right, so this is we don't mean that in a negative way, but there would be triggers and I learned to identify those. I'm still learning to identify those to make sure that I respond in a healthy way, that I don't go to a bad place mentally. That is a hard thing to do, and it's not anything that just happens on its own.
Right.
That is hard work, but then it's kind of like math. You learn how to do 1 + 1, 2 + 2. Then you can do 2 × 2, 4 × 4. And then you can do some multiplication. You can divide. Then you can get into more complex equations and then some algebra and geometry.
So
it builds.
I don't want to necessarily interrupt your story too much, but
no.
I think it's important that we understand that because I'm doing counseling, some EMDR stuff that's really helped me with some of the processing of like past traumas and things like that. And I think especially as guys, we don't understand that like mental health, there's a skill actually.
Oh, it's totally
it's practice.
a skill.
There, it's not just like I think there's this sense that like mental health is like this, I don't know, like, people on a mountainside in Nepal with a monk, like with their legs crossed, like, like
that. Is that where you started? That's what I did. That was the first.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but it's like, it's just skills. It's changing the habits. It's the thinking. And I think like when the word says like, take your thoughts into captivity, I think that's what it's speaking to.
Yeah.
The idea that mental, and Navy SEALs know this.
Yes.
Right? Like I think I was reading a book about Navy SEALs or something. They said that the training is about 50% of like the average male's like on a scale of athleticism could make it through the training from a physical standpoint.
Yes.
But like only like 5% or 2% or something like that can make it through the mental side of it, because it's teaching your brain to think differently.
Yeah. To shut off those compartments in some cases, to use it differently, to make sure that you can capitalize on your physical capacity.
Yeah, and that's there is just as much a component to mental health when it comes to exercising new habits as
Yep.
there is to like physical health.
Right.
If not more so.
Absolutely.
Because it's like crazy how much your thinking is based on habit.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So you get into ruts,
Right.
and and especially after you've gone through life.
And that's not to minimize the chemical imbalances that happen and stuff.
Lord, no,
Like,
we're going to
I'm
get
not-
into that
yeah,
too. We're going to
so,
get into that.
Yeah.
But so and actually that's something that's coming up on the next episode. So I will talk about how through the process I dug down, and this took months. This wasn't like, oh, I went in one day and found out what the root cause of all my depression was. It was a process and trying to pull back some layers, but we did. And so we'll pick up with identifying the root cause of my depression, but the importance of having to get to that, because okay, I'm depressed, and I understand that.
Right.
And I say that I went to counseling really to get my wife off my back. Okay.
I'm
Because
sure that we're not the only dads who have done that.
so I'm just going to say that
Like,
she knows
it's like-
that.
Yeah.
So that's not an illuminating thing to her, but I went and I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, whatever. And I want to say just, to get her off my back, I'm like, all right, fine. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I'll go. And it wasn't purely, I'll go to shut her up, but it was like,
Yeah, there's
I don't
not
think
like
there's anything going
there's not like a
on,
bitterness
but-
about
yeah,
it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like, okay,
So
if you think I need to do this, I love you, I trust you.
Yep,
Okay,
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm in there, and I talked. Sally was the first therapist name. Love Sally. She's so great. So you're talking to her.
Very good therapist name.
It's like talking to your mom. Kind of was like talking to Sally, but she doesn't have any. No, you shouldn't have done that.
That's not how I raised you.
Yeah, exactly. So there that component. Sorry, mom. But I was able to talk to her, and not. So it's a very good thing. So, but about 3 months in, 2 months, 3 months, I was like, I think I understand that I might be dealing with some depressive tendencies.
Right.
And then 4 or 5 months in, it was like, oh yeah, no, I'm depressed. I understand this now. But it took that long just to get through enough stuff to go, oh, okay, I understand where we're at now.
Yeah.
So next episode, we'll pick up with identifying the root cause. So y'all stay tuned, and we'll see you next week.
Shouldn't have to be this hard.